States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, public comments. Anybody wishing to speak, please come to the podium. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion and second on approval of the agenda. Any changes or additions? All those, motion and second on the approval of the agenda. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed. Item 4, consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second on the consent agenda. Any issues or concerns with that? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed. Very good. Item 5, public hearing, special event Rocktoberfest. David, you gonna see this through? Very good.
Yes, I can take this here real quick. Yes. So this is the same event that's been going on for several years. The St. Joseph Booster Club has submitted a special event application for Saturday, September 28th from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. It would take place in that church parking lot at the corner of Minnesota Street and College Avenue. And they're requesting 7 spots on the northern border of the event be blocked off. So we do have a site plan. And so we are here now tonight to take any public comments that there may be for the special event permit, and at the close of that, take any action that the council feels appropriate.
Very good. So that being said, we'll open the public hearing for a special event Rocktoberfest. Anybody wishing to address the council or anything on this? Jump up there with your name, address, and better record you.
That makes sense. Hi, Chris Yasgar. I took over as the chair of this event. My only comment was when I was looking through you guys' notes on the application, I think the chief of police recommended 2 officers, and on the recommendation to you guys, it says 3. So I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is and what the reasoning is from that recommendation to what's on the memo. That was my
Only comment?
only comment that I have, yes.
Very good. Thank you. We'll get to it. Anybody else wishing to speak? That being said, we're going to close the public hearing, then now open it up to counselors and chief. Who wants to go first? Anybody?
What is your recommendation, Dwight?
Well, the 3 officers came to play when we started reminiscing about how last year went, and there was a little bit of maybe activity at the end of the event. It is some pretty strong beer that's served. There was some thefts of some steins, and there was a little bit of stuff going on. The officer that was working it, Officer Brucker, said that it was a little bit hectic at first and he felt pretty overwhelmed. We had to bring some of our officers off the street to help out. We had 2 of our officers off the street came in to help out. So initially I had said, I don't believe the crowd is going to stay the same size as last year. It's only going to increase in popularity. And when we were estimating 1,200 last year, I think it's pretty safe to say that you could probably exceed 1,500 this year. Will you hit 2,000? Hard to say. Don't know what the weather's going to do. However, the event grows in popularity every year. And for officer safety, we need at least more than 1. I had made the comment at first, I could definitely see 3 happening. I stopped and talked to Kayla a little bit when I dropped off the permits and said, well, if I do the math with what we expect with the church having 25,000 for Joetown Rocks with the number of 10 officers comes out to about 1 every 2,500. You know, if you kind of put the same amount there, you're going to be close to the maybe just under 2,000. I think it's still safe to say 2 would be sufficient. And if we need to pull somebody, we can. If it still continues to become a very intoxicating event, we may have to bump that up next year. But my minimum threshold that I would like to see is at least 2 based on last year's performance.
Very good. Any other comments, you guys?
So I understand that Rocktoberfest wants 7 parking spots on the north side of the venue on Minnesota Street.
Yeah.
And then anything along College Avenue? Looking at this diagram, I mean,
No,
College has the sidewalk.
correct.
Are you asking for anything on the street itself? to
Nope,
be?
and the sidewalk will still be open. This is College, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, so the sidewalk will still be open there. we're doing, if you were there last year, Kevin, I think you were, think. Anyways,
I was there last year.
perfect. Thank you, Rick. Same setup. We're just gonna bump back because of the anticipated growth, or at least I'm hoping it grows, but like you said, it's very dependent on the weather. But from a right of way standpoint, not much has changed in that manner.
So I'm gonna add on. So quite frankly, the drop off and pickup was a mess.
Okay,
It caused traffic to delay on both College and Minnesota. Plus they're dropping on the north side and the south side, allowing pedestrians to cross both ways. And to me, that's both vehicle and pedestrian safety issues all night long. It's very poorly controlled. I mean, I would suggest you close that street and even College, a portion of it, up maybe to the, I don't know, to the alley. And allow, I don't know if there's a way to allow drop off pickup in the alley or back there or somewhere else where there's not a lot of vehicle traffic and certainly not a lot of pedestrian traffic. I mean, that was a mess. I mean, there are people coming and going, waiting for a spot, backing up at the four-way. To me, it just didn't work very well.
so your recommendation is to close off.
Well, I know, I understand the need for, or some need for drop off and pickup. I'm just not sure where the right location is. Minnesota is not the right location for that. That's my opinion. And College, if you close Minnesota, then drop off pickup becomes College, and you may have similar instance or problems. I just don't know I'm looking kind of for staff counsel. I don't have the
Well,
right solution. but-
Yeah, and I think at one of our, in the past few years, we've been discussing, and probably most specifically the last year since David's come on board, we've been talking at some of our workshops and kind of bringing David into speed before he'd seen some of himself. One of our biggest concerns is the traffic, and all we are is one either bad accident or fatality away from getting a black eye through all of our events. And so if we have to basically block off a few blocks during each one of these events, so we inconvenience a few drivers, but everybody keeps moving in an orderly fashion versus those that are gawking off to the side when they should be paying attention, and people that are getting impatient and not using crosswalks and they're darting through between cars, we're maybe better off to keep using the same footprint. And I guess for my purposes, I didn't request the street closure on this one because I was still kind of thinking that we had time with 4th of July next week to see how this first one really goes, other than Joetown blocks. But Joetown Rocks is a much larger event.
Yeah.
And yet when you take what Rocktoberfest looked like last year, that's bigger than what the CVB's Joetown blocks was. So I think there's definitely advantages for us to consider blocking off a portion of Minnesota Street, whether we do it at First Avenue again by the Legion, detour them a block towards Ash to the north, shoot them back over again. But like Ryan just said, we're basically gonna follow the same footprint where we block them over here at Baker, and then they can just detour around it. If they need an Uber location, they can come in off of Baker, do a U-turn, and come right back out again.
Is there a reason why you moved? Is it because of space coming from the parking lot over to the dirt parking lot?
Yeah, correct. Space and the setup's a lot easier for us from that.
Okay.
The biggest thing is space. We couldn't have, in my opinion, held the event that we ended up with last year in front of the school. So yeah, that was the main reason.
From a size perspective, you probably doubled or tripled the number of people.
You know,
I
making
mean,
this over, part of the reason was there's some confusion with the record keeping, so I
Oh.
can't tell you exactly, but I know it increased. Which we're, hoping to narrow some of that record keeping down this
Okay.
year.
I would
well,
have,
especially when it gets later at night, like after this, it goes till 11. And then people really are crossing the street
Mhm.
without, I'm not saying they're high on life, but they're high on a lot of things at that time, and they may not be paying
Enjoying
much
the-
attention. And so to me, there should be some kind of closure in there so that we can avoid that one accident that's waiting to happen.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I come from a safety background in the insurance industry. I'm open to whatever your guys' recommendation is. You guys understand the town better than us.
I mean, really, I'm looking at you two guys, Dwight, Ryan, and kind of counselors. What do you guys think? Because that was last year, that was a mess after 10 o'clock. I thought somebody was going to get hit for sure.
Well, at least for sure Collegeville Avenue. I would say for sure that.
And I don't know the right answer. The one problem, our entrance, I mean, we can redesign this, but we did have
Yeah.
the curb there in the church parking lot milled purposely for that entrance. On Minnesota Street. Which I guess if our hands are tied and we have to change that, we can.
Right, you guys, anybody else?
I
Ryan?
would recommend in the form of a motion here, put the closure at First Street or Avenue, whatever that is, at Minnesota. Then down Minnesota, right by the alley. Close it there.
I mean,
First
college.
Avenue Northwest by the Legion? Or First
No,
Avenue
not
Northeast?
that far down,
You,
Go ahead.
sorry, Bob.
on the east end of
East end,
Minnesota
first, northeast.
first.
East, yeah.
Okay, and then college. Going on to Minnesota. And then block it off at the alley by the old bank. On Minnesota, block that traffic off there, and then south on College by the alley. Coming into Minnesota Street.
So it's like a T.
Like a cross,
Alley
yeah.
to Baker to First. East. First Northeast.
I think that would work.
Then,
Yeah, I would probably refrain from using the alleys as your T
Yeah.
because that's not gonna collect the amount of traffic. I'd go to a major intersection. So if you're gonna go to First Avenue Northwest by the Legion and then divert them up to Ash, it's gonna handle more traffic than an alleyway is gonna go.
Yeah,
And then you shoot them across to the east and then they get back on First Avenue Northeast and come up towards Baker around this here like we're doing for the other ones and just avoid that area. That's what Ryan and I were just discussing. Even if you block one block on either side of College Avenue, you're still gonna force yourself into a 90-degree turn and people are still gonna be shooting across, whether they're coming from the local blend, the meeting, or the Midway, or they're coming up from Bo Diddley's, Bad Habit. You just got that collection of bodies. So,
Okay, move off from the alley down to the Legion and cut off
right,
second there.
is it, are we talking about the big T again?
yeah,
Or
basically,
the big cross?
yeah,
what is this drop off?
first to first.
Last year they had a parking space reserved for, so you could drop your partner off and then bring an Uber in and pick up or
Well-
something like that,
Oh.
so.
And
Maybe
I
just with
think
an Uber.
when I was up front running the front end, a lot of it, we do get an elderly crowd in
Yeah.
the beginning. And it was, I think a lot of it was mobility, drop off, stuff like that.
Later on, they're all young kids.
It also probably a mobility issue at that time. Yeah.
And you see on College, block it off on, what street is this?
Baker.
Baker?
Yeah, you'd have to come all the way down to Baker here.
Okay. I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Motion and second. I just want to make, we'll have some more discussion, but I want to make sure we're talking about the big T again, right? First to first, Ash to Baker.
First to first,
Ash to Baker.
yeah, for Joetown blocks and Joetown rocks, we go all the way out to
Big T.
second.
Oh, do we really?
Yeah,
Okay,
but for this one, we'll go to first.
okay. More. So that's the big thing about drop off and pickup. I mean, it was a mess last year. You guys have something else you need to add? or-
No, I just safety is, I'm sure, and like you just said, so I'm sure you'll be amenable to that.
So-
And we'd be looking at the street closure for the entirety of the event, 3 to 11.
Yeah, that's the other question. I'm just gonna ask Brian to it. So we're gonna figure out when. So when, Brian, pay attention.
Sorry, we were
So
talking about the
when-
closure.
I know you are. I know. Good job. So the event goes from 3 to 11. When would we close the street? You know what I mean?
When would we close it?
Yeah, like noon?
Does the music start at 3?
It opens at,
Soon after,
yeah.
there's two bands, so we have can't think of the name of it. They're a Bavarian band.
Okay,
Yes.
but it does start at
Yes.
3?
Yes.
well, there's a couple of Oompa bands and there's a rock band at night.
Correct, yeah.
Rhino or
Yes,
something.
Yeah.
but 3 o'clock, there's a full orchestra band.
Bavarian.
Okay, yeah, noon.
Bavarian,
Noon?
there you
2 to midnight?
Because they'll start showing up, I assume, before 3.
Yeah, I feel like last year people started to trickle in. I'm trying to text, I apologize. I missed my notes on the schedule, but I think the band does start soon after 3.
So, so road blockage would be a certain 12 to whatever, okay?
12 to 11.
12 to 11, okay. And I just want to make sure, in here it says recommending 3, but you just said 2, right, Dwight?
I think 2 would be good.
Okay,
That'd be the minimum.
okay. So there's been a motion and second to, again, just block streets. And it's gonna be from noon till 11 PM that night. Other questions or concerns? I think the other, so the other thing is, we have to make a motion to accept the event or something, approve the special event.
Like
So we,
We have
So
to
approve the permit.
prove the, yeah, first prove the permit. and
well, we're
then-
approving the permit with the change that would be street closure. That, can I, that right, Bob?
Yeah,
No, I would recommend that you can do it in one motion.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, we're making a motion to approve the special event permit, including blocking streets
and
first night from noon to 11 PM. Everybody clear?
Clear.
All those in favor signify by aye. Aye,
Aye.
opposed, motion carries. Thank you. And, well, that's okay. Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's beat up Millstream now.
Who's next?
Who is next?
Okay, as you're aware, this one is not a public hearing. This is just
Yep.
they submitted their annual application. So the event would run from 11 till 5. In the closure of the street would be 6 AM to 7 PM. All for setup and cleanup. Historically, we have not had any issues with this, and I do believe we have a representative here to speak and answer any questions that the council may have.
I have a question if you don't want.
Yeah. Introduce yourself for the audio people at home.
I'm Mary DiGiovanni with the Millstream Arts Festival.
So with what you have proposed in front of us, has anything changed about the site plan from last year?
I can't tell you if the map is the same as last year. I didn't do the application, but the tents will again be on I'm not sure. It's the same street closure, nothing's changed. You guys may recall, I think 2 years ago, we did the layout where the tents were in the middle.
Mhm.
We went back to this curb line last year and that was successful. So they'll be back at the curb line, but it doesn't change the street closure.
Okay, that was my only question. I attended last year, enjoyed the event. That was nice. Thank you.
You bet.
Second,
Motion second to approve. I have just a single question about traffic control. Did you have people in the corners or something like that last year? Like pedestrians, because Minnesota was open, right?
Minnesota was open, but I mean, just the way we're set up, the bookend is on that one end. That's the authors.
Yep.
But there were no, do you mean like staff assigned to it? or
Yeah.
Volunteers assigned to it? No, it all flowed.
And again, the same thing is, my concern is that they parking in the church parking lot, they're gonna coming across, and I'm not saying, this is, all in the daylight and people are aware of it, but same concern about vehicle and a pedestrian safety and that they're crossing to get there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a great event.
it has been, the crosswalks do seem to have worked with that one. I mean, it might be hours of the day and there's not, I mean, I can't say nobody has a drink at one of the downtown facilities, but it hasn't
Okay.
been a real drinking event, if that
Okay.
makes sense. So
Right. Just my opinion, we'll watch that. We'll need to watch it and see what kind of traffic and the size of the crowd and stuff like that. Motion and second, moving forward with street closure. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you,
thank you.
Mary. Item 6, 7. Kinetic. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get my glasses out here.
Mr. Mayor and Council. Back.
Hey,
And this is the time, it's the first council meeting in the month. And this is when I've been committing to coming to give the council report on kind of what the status has been. One of the things that you'll have before you is a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, to add to the contract that kind of defines what expectations and codifies those expectations on the part of Kinetic to you as the council or our contract holders. And we've wanted to make sure that we put those in writing to you as a firm commitment from Kinetic, because we've heard you loud and clear. Some of the things that we've heard both from the council and frankly from the committee are having someone that had enough historical context in the campaign and the back history of how we got to where we are in the campaign, meaning me, to take an ownership role, a leadership role on this. And Kinetic has agreed that they would allow me to do that. So I will be the representative responsible for the relationship and staffing to the committee and making sure that the committee meetings are held, committee members understand what their obligations are in serving in the role, and that we move forward expeditiously with a fundraising goal. We agreed that given Kinetic's performance this year, that there would be 3 months that Kinetic would not bill. So we extended an additional month on this to make sure that we had things together. But during this time, we've also made some pretty significant progress in adding members to the committee and getting the committee meetings on a regular schedule and making sure that we're informing the leadership group. There's a group of 4 the committee members that are part of the leadership cadre for it, keeping them informed on what's happening in between meetings. Evidently, the committee expressed that they did not feel that the training for service on the committee was adequate. So July 18th, we're doing a working lunch for the committee, and it's a 2-hour lunch, and we're redoing training. I met with Patty Wetterling and Amy Bonfig to go over the agenda for that training, so that way, if it's not what they think that they need to learn, we're going to adjust and make sure that we give them what they need to move forward without a problem. And we did that. So we worked through the PowerPoint, and that's been drafted. And I've gone through and recollected new data for where we are with fundraising and where the industry is. Just so happened that 2 weeks ago, Giving USA published its charitable giving report for the entire philanthropic community in the United States. And we have those updated numbers for the training session. So we're going to have really good data. We're going to have a good plan in place. And we met and talked over about that to make sure that we're giving the committee what they need to move forward. One of the hesitancies that was happening with the committee in making asks was they did not feel led and informed in a way that they were willing to ask their friends and neighbors for financial support for this, because they didn't have the confidence that they needed. So we worked really hard in reestablishing confidence in the committee. And we're just as we're working hard to reestablish confidence with the council, we want you to feel confident in our leadership and our commitment to making this work. So we've done that. One of the committee members had an absolutely outstanding idea. And I'm for it. Came from the committee. Rather than having our 8 days, 80 hours a month spread evenly out through the months, in November and December, where you've got the holiday periods of Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year's, rather than trying to divide that 80 hours of Kinetic's service to you in December, when it's hard to get hold of people because of the holidays, they're out of town. We're going to move those days earlier into our time frame, which will allow us to get in front of donors. And Councilman Loso, Hopefully, if I'm able to come back to you in December to ask for an extension, I'll come back to you with actual progress on commitments and money for there. So by front end loading the contract a little bit more with time and with days and with resources, we think that's a good chance and it's a good strategy. And it
Sounds
was a
like
good
promise to me.
I'm working on it, sir. The other good news has been, we've been able to work with the Y, with Greg Jake, on a response to foundations applications. And so we're moving forward on several private foundations applications. And thus far, in those foundations directors that we've spoken with, this is a project that they would consider. So the things that we've told you we were going to try and do, we're starting to deliver it. By the time I come for the next council meeting, it is my intentions to have goals and objectives that are firm so that you know that we'll have X number of dollars raised by this date and X number of dollars raised, or committed, if it's not in the bank, at least committed in writing by that date. So that way you can hold us accountable for a dollar level too. My hesitancy on giving you that dollar level right now is it's premature. We're just now starting to do the training. We're just now starting to get this done, but we're there. Kinetic is allowing me to lead the team and to bring in people to supplement my expertise and my skills to make sure that we're giving you the best shot to succeed. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Anyone? My only question is when do we start getting the bill from Kinetic again? Is it this month or next month?
It'll be the end of July.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Item 8, the MOU.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. As you just saw, Scott did a pretty good job of going through the MOU. So yeah, the things is that Scott would be the primary representative. The 80 hours can be flexible as far as what months they are used in. Kinetic agreed to add one more month for a total of 3 months. They agreed to provide the training to the fundraising committee, and that is not part of the 80 hours that is in our contract, and that they agreed to develop an updated goals and timeline document with the city. So one thing I want everybody to be aware of is, so this memorandum of understanding is in addition to the contract. The contract is still what we're operating under. The memorandum of understanding helps clarify some of the maybe ambiguity that was in the contract and makes it more specific. So it doesn't replace or subvert the original contract. It clarifies the contract, what was intended or what needs to be, or what the contract does say. So with that, I would take any questions and I would recommend that this be approved.
Anybody, councilors? I need a motion.
I move to approve the memorandum.
A second.
Motion and second approving the MOU between City of St. Joe and Kinetic. Other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. Thanks, Scott. Last but not least, department reports. Anybody, anything?
I just have a couple of things, Mayor and Council. So just a couple FYIs. Hanson and Companies will be breaking ground on their new facility in the next couple of weeks. So that's very exciting. And then also the wedding event venue off Jade Road has requested a extension on their CUP. So you'll see that request at your next council meeting this month.
Does that have to go through planning at all? Or just?
We are running it through planning.
Okay,
Yep.
very good. Anything else? Anybody? All right, mayor and council reports? Any council reports, anyone? I have a couple of really kind of, and I'll be quick because I know it's 6:30 and we're probably beyond our, well beyond our thing, but David and Bob and I attended the LMC conference down in Rochester. And I attended just a couple of good sessions. One I think was really good. It was the one on cannabis. And the rule is there are no rules quite yet. Well, You-
Well, we have an OCM, correct? An Office of Cannabis Management.
Kind of, it's growing as we speak. I don't know if either of you guys went there, but, there's like 40 staff members and I mean, there are just so many things that have changed from the original legislation to what they're working on now, and they assume it's gonna change again. There still can be a municipal dispensary, and that doesn't affect the number of licenses, but the licenses went from a point system to a drawing on a lotto drawing. So if you're in the business and thought you're getting points by selling hemp products, that's out the door now. You have to enter a drawing like everybody else. There's some really good questions. So one of the guys asked if a person in your neighborhood is kind of sketchy, that's not your word he used, that's my word, but kind of sketchy and gets a license, can you refuse it based on background? He said, no, if the license, the OCM has already authorized it and he's in the drawing and he gets it, you have to grant him a license if he follows all their zoning regulations. So really what that OCM people were saying is zoning has to be so tight on where we can and can't do it. I mean, there's a couple of online booklets that they have for that. And I think, and they said you should have your legal team start working on it right away. Really, that room was packed and there were so many questions. That could have gone on for 4 hours. I mean, it was so good. I mean, it was good because there was a lot of information. It was bad because there's still an awful lot to be uncovered. The one other point that came to notice is that, and this is kind of funny, I think, but if we don't regulate it, the state regulates it. So we can fine them, like if they're in violation of selling the wrong kind of cannabis or whatever, we can fine them to death, but we can't revoke their license. That's a state authorized thing. So, and then they get, this one guy asked a really good question. That, well, if the municipal liquor store, if the liquor store is selling cannabis products, can we revoke their liquor license? Yes. So we can punish them by taking their liquor license away, even though they're doing a cannabis, that's an all state thing. The regulations are all state. It's really convoluted. And so the rules for all that stuff are still going through it. It was, I'll send you guys the link because I was reading it off ours. It's just filled full of stuff. The other one I went to, or I think it was in the awards thing, the EMT from Springfield. So firemen and EMT training or rules here, they have to live within like a 3 mile, 5 mile radius or something like that. I'm not, that something like that sound right, Ryan? Or
7 minute.
7 minutes, 7 minute response. So what Springfield did was they went and they didn't have enough EMT people. So they went to their employers and said, hey, would you be willing to let your employees take EMT and fireman training and increase the number of stock we have? And they did, and it was an overwhelming response that businesses want this service, and they're, were willing to allow their employees to take the training, and they get beep, go, all those things. So I thought, gee, we got a whole college over here with a bunch of nursing students and a whole big program that would be perfect for EMT and fire training. As long as, it's, we know numbers, but I think that would take off some pressure and that would help pad like the nurses going through training right now. I think it's something we should consider. I thought that was a really good idea. And I thought we're sitting with a ton of, nurses training and that would just fit that mold really well. Anyway, those two were, I just kept thinking of that EMT and college and how we could partner. And I'm sure if there's a way that we can get some training into them and use them, it'd help our EMT staff as it, probably taxed right now. I don't know. EMT, they all said EMT calls are going like this, fire like this kind of, but anyway, I'll send you guys the links on the cannabis stuff and you can read. There's so much paper there. There's just unbelievable what they're going on. Anybody else have anything? I don't have anything else.
Regarding the cannabis products,
Yeah.
Stearns County at a county level, in the last week, I believe, passed the moratorium through the end of the year.
Mhm.
So we're not gonna see anything in St. Joe because they passed that at a county level.
Yeah, and quite honestly, almost everybody in that room has a moratorium on. I mean, there's only a couple that are seeking it, but you can't get a license until, what the guy said, if somebody is selling products, it's illegal because we haven't handed out any licenses yet. We're not going to be doing so for like another 6 months. He said there's a catch-22. He said, we want to get the product available so that when we do hand out licenses, you can sell it. And if you buy the product too early, then that opens up the illegal market. Because they have to get rid of that product somehow, and so they'll start dispensing it anyway. So, yeah, it's, most of the people at that thing, or the ones I talked to, have a moratorium on, so not unusual because the rules aren't out there yet. Question? Yeah, Kim.
Different topic, to Randy or Ryan. Now that the County Road 75 bridge is done,
Oh, that, yeah.
when will we expect the roundabout construction and detour to take hold? Or commence?
And we're still probably several weeks out. The county's still working through right-of-way challenges with respect to that project, so they haven't been able to get plan approval to even bid the project yet.
Okay, so is that gonna be like done this year, or is it gonna be?
My last conversation with the county staff was, the hope was, but I think the longer that these right-of-way challenges
Okay.
present them, they're gonna be faced with that same question.
All right, thanks.
So Randy, you and I talked about the free right goes west. There's
Yes.
also a free right that goes east.
Actually, so at least in terms of my reach out to staff or my team, I included both of those.
Okay.
I did get an initial response from county staff in terms of some additional pedestrian warning signs that could go up. I'm trying to find out if there's some other tools in the toolbox that we could consider.
And I looked and I didn't see much when there's free right and there's a gap between where you get to hit the button to go across all the way. So I haven't found that yet, but okay, thank you for doing that. Anything else? Anyone? Once, twice, thrice? Item 11, motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye, opposed, we adjourn. Thank you all very much.